I have at least one thing I need to take care of real quick. Make things smart for myself. I actually put my phone on my charge and also moved it away from my desk. And I happen to have everything up. Double checking things here. This will probably be one of my last Twitch streams for a short period of time, as I'm going to wind up working on what's going to be my overlay and a couple other things, so that this looks a little bit more interesting at least. But with that said, so I knocked a little bit of this out over on Facebook Live. I'm going to do a little extra work to it here. This would be track 7 on what would be an official album, but I'm going to figure out the process for it in due time, because I'm going to split this into 2 EPs. I figure it's probably better for me to do it that way, because somehow it's all kind of cohesive in a duality, but I think that some of this stuff needs to be separated. So this is the Death Cradle. And then it just kind of finishes out like that. There is one thing I know that I could do here, because, piano parts, they need to be pretty intricate when you're doing stuff like this, I guess. Depends on how you want to view it. That's like what the first passage would sound like, and I think the second one's supposed to be I think it's supposed to be this, close enough to it. That's where it's supposed to be at. And replace that one over there with this one. Also, these notes are all 127. They need to be brought down to 100. Sound less loud, less harsh, but a little bit more dynamic. And the this part right here, it's an attempt at using a Nintendo type sound with a little bit of like PWM, pulse width modulation, but because I'm not able to exactly do it the way that I would want to do it, I'd have to bring up a different plugin that takes a little bit more of a CPU hit, and I figured just for this for now, just have that in place, and using a pitch shifter on it, I keep it pretty simple so that it kind of brings out a sort of a chorus like effect like this, but at the same time that it feels kind of like pulse width. Now at some point I'll wind up changing that around and make it more appropriate. For now though, let's see here. I also forgot I should be color coding some of these. The bass sort of. Customize it too, so it's not like all of the stock options or whatever that's made available. And let's see here. Since the drums aren't of importance right now, and let's locate the instrument itself. East-west play. And then it's going to be trying it until we find what feels like an appropriate patch. Sounds about appropriate. Next step is with this part right here, it's kind of like already a lot's going on. So I just need to remind myself what the progression of that was. Something to that effect. But I also need to add, unfortunately, a compressor and try to do this right. It shouldn't exactly be going in and out. Let's see here. Let's double check this. To that, and let's pull this up, pull it off screen, take a look. The reason why is probably because compressor needs to go up a little bit and noise gate needs to come down a little bit, and that needs to go up there. The audio shouldn't be going in or out really. Music wise, let me at least put a test on this. Yeah, volume wise it shouldn't be really affected. It's probably just either the computer speakers or TV kind of thing where you have to turn it up just a little bit more, maybe. Let's see here. Map this as a cello and record it and see if it works. Wrong note progression. I need to switch this out over to Nexus and use a string from there. I'm also going to angle the mic a bit. Maybe that'll help. Instrument. Got that Nexus action going on. And find here. Work for now. This part here, let's see here. Wind it to 1 measure behind. Let's go for it. Like what I'm going for. So I'll play this back one more time. I'm also going to take off the scroll and the continuous scroll. and we will let it play up to just because it works. Like whenever you end a song, you usually kind of have like beats like that happen, I guess. But from let's see here. Actually, I might have the ability to put in a couple of things and not take away from this. Just a matter of what. But playback. Sounds smooth so far. work in progress feedback. I could most likely do that. It's not like I'm overly busy, really. Just getting a couple of things handled here as far as pre-production and whatnot. That would be the Death Cradle. Let's see here. Real quick here. Let me make this window exclusive. That way then if I have something pop up. Here. Let me copy the link into a give me 1 second here. For some reason, my web browser doesn't have sound coming through it. I think it's routing just primarily through my audio rack, in which it's ASIO based right now, so a lot of sound is not directly played through. But let me give a playback real quick if I can. It's only 51 seconds. Rewinding real quick. Second, because it just finished playing. There was something that I heard in here that I think may be able to have a little bit of improvement in terms of a mix. I'm just playing it back right now. There's a little bit of a section about the 35-second mark approximately. I hear a lot of resonance in the instrument that you use there. I don't know how much purpose that is, but I don't know. Are you familiar with doing the frequency sweep to find problem frequencies in an instrument? While I ask that and wait for an answer back, I'm also going to boot up another project window now that at least that one's done this year. Okay, so like, let me see if I can pull something up for you real quick here. Something that might be of interest, because it can help, especially when there's instruments that are functioning in a mix in its entirety, and there's something that just still feels kind of off, I guess. Let's see here. Where is it at? Where is it at? Maybe this patch. Let's find out. Okay, so if I take out the reverb and then I do something with an EQ on that bus. So what we're going to do is we're not going to exactly freeze the spectrum, but we're going to do something here real quick. On the display there, which I should also pull up, my bad, 1 second. Having to jump around with all this stuff, it's just kind of like, still getting used to it. So my apologies. So if you have an EQ that shows you cleanly, a frequency spectrum like that, what you're going to do typically is, what you would do is take the knob right here, and you would wind up turning the EQ up, or not the EQ, the Q, the bandwidth of it. You're going to look for a noise like that that's kind of resonant, and then you bring it back down to the 0 mark, and then drag it down until it's kind of in a comfortable spot, usually like a couple of decibels. You won't exactly notice it with this instrument, for example. If you record guitars, or if you have instruments that have a lot of shimmer on the top and some resonance to it, and resonance, I mean like it adds to the tonality from a certain point up, you'll start sweeping around like that, and you'll hear frequencies that go on with the instrument. And it's usually common with guitars, and it'll be obvious because it'll sound kind of uncomfortable, or it would sound like something that you wouldn't want to listen to, and you find that in the instrument, and then you just bring it down a little bit like that, and you should be good. Some instruments tend to be very resonant, where, say for example, like we have just the beat right there. Let me do a freeze of this. Okay, so visually, when we see what, let's pull that way. So when we see what the B does here, we see that there's the sub bass, or at least the bass area, there's the low mids, and then it goes all the way up into the treble and the air part, right? Some of these peaks are some of the resonances that come with just that one note, and that's just a B. Some of them may be problematic, and some of them may not be. But if you want to kind of smooth things over a little bit, you can bring in just an EQ right there, like a knob, a part of the bandwidth or whatever, and you can sweep around. We're gonna also take the Q curve. We're going to take this node right here and assume that, for example, like we had just heard it right here in the 2 kilohertz part. We bring that back down to 0, and just kind of nudge in there a little bit until we hear that it's not as unpleasant anymore. And then you would just A and B it, like say the effect is off and then the effect is on. And it can help you out significantly in taming certain problem areas in an instrument, which would also give the mix some more room for other instruments to kind of bleed through on that part of the frequency spectrum that you'd be surgically toying with. And it's something I do live by, especially with guitars, because those are really hard to tame, especially when you have a distortion from a preamp, an amp, or even if you're using just a dry cabinet signal like a cab IR or something like that, and you take a look at it and then you notice that there are spots like that across that. It can also happen in bass in a weird way, but any instrument that you use, if you've modeled it yourself, you're going to find those kinds of problem frequencies will exist. And taming some of them in certain spots can actually be very beneficial for an overall mix and master. Level-wise, I do believe that the very end of that clip is really good. It looks like it at least meets the LUFS that SoundCloud at least uses as far as a normalization thing. And the overall rest of it, I think there was a audio sample, some speech stuff that sounded like it was a little sharp on the air, and by air I mean like higher treble frequencies. But it still sits pretty nicely, and it still gives a bit of the atmosphere in what you're going for. I'd say that you're definitely in the ballpark for what you're trying to achieve with that. So if there's anything that feels like it's off in terms of additive EQ, and by that I mean like the EQ sweep that I showed you, if there's something that sounds like it's really off, then yeah, you don't have samples. You just wait. I'm familiar with Serum at least. I've used it a few times. You can still, for example, let's actually do that real quick on the fly before I get to the next little deal. Like, say, let's go with acid and then just a saw with a small detune kind of deal here. And we'll set this for asymmetry and a bend. Okay, and because I'm not using a filter on this, it'll probably help out a little bit more. See here. Okay, so that's what you're seeing right there. I can already tell that some of this is some of the root fundamental of the instrument itself. And then up here is just more of the content that goes on. So say if we did this, let's give it a almost like a 9 and unfreeze. See, like right there. So that one sounds a little bit resonant to me. So if I were to pull that out, you don't exactly notice a lot regarding it, but it does help out because it could actually bleed through with other instruments in a mix. And from that, it would diminish the potential mix that you could have. And usually you want to have as clean of a mix as you can. Obviously, that's what everybody wants to do whenever they do music. But sometimes some of these tips and tricks, such as frequency sweeping with an EQ, can help you zero in on an instrument's resonant parts and that tend to be a little bit overpowering. You take those out. You only need to take maybe 2, maybe 3 at a time. No more than 3 if you can help it. You could take 2 out, and by doing so, it actually opens up some of that frequency space for letting other instruments that have something in that range kind of blend through and try to, for themselves, try to fight for that space. But it's not much of a fight the more that you tend to scoop out the resonant parts, because then you have other instruments that might be attempting to fight for that spot. And if there's resonances on those instruments fighting for newer space, you'll find them. Everything will eventually kind of smooth over. But just an EQ alone isn't going to help that. Using a compressor in the end to kind of help gently smooth everything over on top of that will even it out enough to where those resonances aren't going to cut through the mix that you just cut, but you'll be able to have a more smoother sound overall after doing so. And then being able to adjust the volume where necessary, even if it's through automation, being able to do that can make the mix sound even bigger by the time that you hit the mastering stage. Mastering wise, that's not something that anybody knows 100%, to be quite honest. There are some people who have to hear the content before they figure, well, like this hi-hat over here on this side versus the one on the left side is like too sharp, and we can't exactly work with that data if they can send us a new copy where it's like the shininess on the top is kind of just brought down a bit, so it doesn't sound too dull, but it sounds like it's been dulled down enough. You'd have to tweak with all those kinds of things in order to reach a mastering stage that feels right. And some people I've seen overdo mastering, and sometimes they do get good results depending on what it is that they do. What I do, mastering is always going to be one way or another the black art, because you never know if, say, if you have like a certain preset set up on your master bus here in Reaper, for example, or if you had it on Pro Tools or Cubase or Ableton, your mastering chain is not always going to sound 100% the way that it should be based on other tracks that come along in the instruments, unless if it feels 95% or higher where your sound is at ballpark wise. I do kind of hope that gives an idea. I would definitely say that it's in the ballpark of really good quality. It's just a matter of, if you have some issues with the mix alone, if you find them, tackle them. Anything that sounds really resonant, that would be uncomfortable to some people's ears, tackle them, because those will open up other instruments. Yeah, not a problem, man. I mean, I try to help out anybody I can. I'm not always 100% available to help people out, but when I am, I feel good about giving what information I do know. So hopefully you can be able to run with that, and maybe I'll wind up hearing a decent adjustment or two, and even a final product maybe. Let's see here. Because I don't have SSD armed, do that, plus also 16th notes and triangles. Let's see here. I think that I would go digging in and referencing old MP3 files, but that would just be a little too much. Have to go in and reference the old file. My apologies. Also, sweep that off. actual BPM at this point because as the bass actually starts the intro off. We're going to do this pretty quickly here. Actually changes around right about here. That together, we have one of our takes. And then copy that one more time. Let's see here. Next one we're going to use is Zebra 2. We're going to do this using, let's see here. Synth bass-ish. What we're going to do with this is we're going to change the amount of modulation done on this, and so you can actually see what I'm doing here. I'll increase the screen size so you can actually see. Now that I can also close enough. It's going to take a little bit of tweak on EQ to get that sharpness to stay out of there as best possible. But the other factor here is getting it to where I need it to be at. That's pretty close. Reason why I do some of these things is it helps out in being a little bit more centralized with where things kind of are at. Also, take it up an octave. And some of these. Itch. All right. One more playback, and then we know where we're at. Okay, next step is a pad. And there's got at least as a temporary holder, probably absent. And let's see here. But it's got to have some sort of like breathiness to it, because that's kind of what I usually had with that. Let's see here. That's pretty damn close. What is going on with it here is a good question. Yeah, see, like right there, something I mentioned earlier was some resonance. Don't exactly want that. exactly as strong as I figured it would. So we're going to replace that with massive, because usually massive will have everything when you're looking for something and something else doesn't have it somehow. So let's dig into the browser, synthpad. Let's make it bright and find out. Tweak off of this could actually work. Let's see here. Most things look like they're using LFO 8, so I could probably get away with LFO 6. That actually comes a lot more closer to what I want to use. Yep, all right. That, get in, quantize, commit, chop out the ends, and then that should be it. Let's see here. So in the process of that, let's see here. I have another thing that goes in on top of that. Let's see here. Aside from, I need to. So what I need to do real quick is I need to quick break, and when I get back, I will start with the EP piano patch. So be right back real quick. In. Okay, so next step is the EP piano patch, and finding a patch for that is as easy as Nexus, usually, I guess. Let's see here. Loud, drag it down. Always remember, Nexus is loud as fuck. I am probably not going to find it in here, which would make me stupid. Let's see here. There was piano, then there's total piano. Next step I could do as far as this is go into probably FM8. And then, let's see here. C also could have a tail. B and A also may have a tail. From 2008. All right. About to find out. Oh, actually, wait, I think I know what goes on there. Kind of goes triplet-ish. Heck. Almost. Okay, play this MP3 back one more time. Let's find out. Almost there with this. Almost. Come on. That might be it. Put this on a loop and change the brightness. I swear this starts on the second beat as far as this whole thing is concerned. Get it to be at. Okay. And then I think these repeat themselves here. In this process, let's see here, we do this. And the fourth beat of this fourth measure. And let's see here, it's crash, hats, damn it, China, hats, splash, light crash in China, and then China the rest of the way. I believe that should be us here. Zoom in here because we have these ghost notes, so add some sense of liveliness to them. And then this snare hit comes up just a little bit, at least for now. Okay, and bells. That a snare hit? Yep, that's a snare hit. Gives it slightly a bit of a swing, I guess. But it feels like it works. And then this has to be based off of the groove. It's going to be close. It's going to be rough, but it's going to be close. Can't exactly do the greatest work on a weighted 88 key. But Action, there is a square wave that occurs, but it also modulates. So getting massive to do this just right would be killer. Let's see here. And I don't want to right range. Sorry for your ears. And in this, we are going to go with envelope 4, increase the level because it doesn't need any decay. What it needs is voicing restricted to monophonic, I think. And needs more release. Because that little tail off is what's going to give it the continuous motion, so to speak, that I like to call the warble effect of it. Okay, oscillators. There's no glide. There is vibrato. So this is going to be tricky because we have to show these on envelopes. Approximately. Going to be close enough. I'm going to call it close enough at least for that. There was something about this that I could do with the envelopes. That way, when I need to actually use them, I can copy them around much easier than normal, I guess. And too heavy on just that weird vibratos. Okay, let's see here. That sounds close enough based on what I'm doing right now. Let's find out here. Yes, okay. What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to make this window itself saved where I need it. For now, I'll probably wind up ending the stream for a little bit here, and I will jump back into this in a little bit. I'm going to take a good like 15 to 30 minute breather, give or take, and when I come back, we'll finish some more of this. But at least right now, we're in a good spot. I will stream again here